Justice Earls, drawing on your work for civil and voting rights, knowing that this impacts our educational outcomes, what do you feel are the strongest foundations on which we could rebuild our educational system in North Carolina?
So I think in order to rebuild the educational system, I don't know of any other way except through politics. I think it's valuable to have an inside and outside strategy, but I think you have to start with an understanding of what is the source of your power, and then how can you use that power. And as from my perspective, a lot of what's been said here are giving you the ideas of what your source of power is. It is collective action. It is organizing. It is coming together with like-minded people who share your values. They don't have to agree with you about everything, but coming together and figuring out how to make your voices heard at the ballot box is the point we're at right now in terms of how we rebuild our educational system. And I do think that I have two examples of how fighting back, coming together, marshaling the power of collective action can succeed against the bullying that we are seeing. And so my first example comes from my personal experience of having been brought up on judicial standards complaints saying that it was against the ethics of a judge to talk about racial equity in the judicial system. And so the potential was to remove me from the bench. And I filed a First Amendment lawsuit. I came here to Greensboro for a hearing, but what really happened was that people across the state and actually across the country organized to support me. So that's what we all have to do. We have to, collective action includes organizing to support the people who are out front, standing up for what you believe in and are targets as a result. So we have to understand we have to support each other. But it was only because the North Carolina Black Alliance, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, all sorts of state and national groups came together and said, yes, a Supreme Court justice can talk about racial equity in the justice system. That ultimately those complaints were dismissed, and I'm still on the bench today. And I hope I'll continue to be on the bench if you'll vote for me. But secondly, let me talk about Justice Allison Riggs. Right? I serve with 4 people who said that the votes of military and overseas voters should be thrown out. And Justice Riggs fought that for 6 months. She had to raise millions of dollars to pay her attorneys. The toll on her personally, I can just attest to, was tremendous. But she stood strong, and she knew she was standing up for the rights of voters across the state. And ultimately, federal court stepped in and said, no, you can't change the rules of the election after the election because you don't like the outcome. So it is not easy, but it takes collective action, it takes strong will, it takes a belief. You know, perceptions and expectations matter a lot. We all have to believe that we know we are standing up for the values that matter and that we care about our children and the importance of public education. And if we stand strong together, I know that ultimately we can rebuild a public education system in North Carolina.